The Bonfire of Ashes. In the small, fog-enshrouded village of Avalon, nestled between ancient woods and rolling hills, the whispers of the gods were carried on the wind. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of the old ways, traditions that had lingered since time immemorial. It was a place where fear and faith held sway over every soul, and it was in this grim, windswept corner of the kingdom that her fate would be sealed. Illyra, a woman with soft brown eyes that hid the storm within her heart. Her raven-black hair had once been the talk of Avalon, but now it fell in untidy tangles, as though the world had begun to unravel for her. She had once been the pride of her family, a young maiden who dreamed of love, who whispered of hope and brighter days. But life, in its cruel twists, had other plans. She had become pregnant out of wedlock. In the unforgiving eyes of the village, this was a sin worse than any curse. Whispers spread through the tight-knit community like wildfire, each voice louder than the last, each word more damning. Some said she had been seduced by the devil himself. Others claimed she had tried to tempt the village priest, Father Aldrich, a man whose stern face had once been a fixture of every service, and whose piety was a shield to his own dark secrets. But neither the priest nor anyone else in the village would speak the truth. They only pointed fingers at the young woman whose swollen belly betrayed her guilt. Illyra's father had long since passed away, leaving her with only her mother, a frail woman who spent most of her days in silence, praying for forgiveness that could never come. It was Illyra who would suffer for the sins of others, and the punishment in Avalon was severe. The fire was set. On the morning of her trial, the village square was alive with an unsettling buzz. A bonfire, its smoke already curling up to the gray heavens, stood at the center of the cobbled stone square. The villagers gathered in tight, anxious clusters, their faces drawn with curiosity and judgment. Women in somber dresses exchanged whispers, their eyes casting furtive glances toward Illyra, who stood bound at the foot of the scaffold. Her hands were tied tightly, her body trembling as she faced the judgment of the crowd. Father Aldrich, tall and imposing in his dark robes, stood beside her. His eyes never wavered from the young woman, though his lips never parted in her defense. He had condemned her as surely as the rest. "You have broken the laws of God and man, Illyra," the priest intoned, his voice thick with righteousness. "Your sin is beyond redemption. The flames shall purify your soul and cleanse this village of your evil." But Illyra had no words left. She had pleaded with them for days, her cries echoing in the stone walls of her mother's cottage. She had told them she had loved, truly loved, another, a man whose name she would never speak for fear of what the villagers might do to him. But the truth had not mattered. The village was not interested in truth. They had already condemned her to be an outcast. And so she stood there, the cold weight of her body in the cradle of her pregnancy, the life growing inside her, a silent testament to her defiance. She had once feared the flames, but now she felt only a hollow emptiness. What did it matter if she lived or died? The love she had known was gone. The man she had once cherished was lost to time. And the child within her, innocent yet condemned, would never know the warmth of a mother's embrace. All that was left was the fire. The villagers gathered closer as the fire's heat began to rise, casting long shadows across the stone walls. A young boy stepped forward, holding a torch that flickered in the morning breeze. "Are you ready to face your punishment?" Father Aldrich asked, his tone cold. Illyra's eyes turned to the heavens, her heart no longer burdened by anger but by an aching sorrow. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if searching for something in the vastness of the sky. Then slowly, she nodded. "I am ready," she whispered, though her voice was no more than a breath. And with that, the boy raised the torch and set it to the base of the pyre. As the flames began to climb toward her, Illyra felt an odd sense of peace wash over her. The fire crackled and snapped, but it was not the heat that she felt. It was something else. She thought of the child within her, the one who had yet to see the world, yet to feel the warmth of the sun. She thought of the love she had known, the fleeting touch of a hand that had once made her feel whole. And for the first time in days, she smiled. The fire consumed her in an instant, its flames dancing and licking the sky. But just before the flames fully reached her, before they could take her life completely, a strange sound filled the air. A cry, a soft, high-pitched wail. The crowd froze, their eyes wide with disbelief. Elira's body had collapsed into the flames, but from within her, a tiny, fragile form had been born. A baby, a single breath, a fragile whisper, as if the child had drawn air from the world she had been denied. The villagers stared in horror, unable to look away from the impossible sight. A child born in the flames. As the smoke began to settle and the fire died down, they found the child, alive, unharmed, wrapped in a thin cloak of ash. The child's skin was dark from the smoke, but its eyes were wide, bright with the innocence that only new life could bring. And in the silence that followed, Father Aldrich's voice broke, trembling for the first time. "God have mercy," he muttered, for he knew then that Elira's fate had not been sealed by sin, but by the cruelty of those who judged her too hastily. And in that moment, the child, Elira's legacy, became something else, a symbol of purity, of innocence in a world that had grown blind to both. The villagers gathered the child carefully, and Elira's name was remembered not as a sinner, but as a mother, a woman whose death had given life.